I have been looking for a while for a good Home Assistant widget on Android. I haven't been able to find one. And then I decided to create my own. And this is my widget, and you can do the same thing if you have an Android phone. I'm going to show you how to do that in a few seconds here. Stay tuned. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to show you, first of all, a tour of my widget so you can see how it works. It is a KW widget, KWGT widget, so you need that app. And we're going to talk about Tasker also, that you need it in order to do what I'm doing today. And we need one more option, and that is, it's not optional, but it's going to be the AutoRemote plugin for Tasker. But let's see how it works. Basically, if you turn anything on, living room, patio lights, you turn it off, everything is going to be refreshing. It takes a little bit, maybe a couple of seconds, but it turns on the light immediately. It does that command, but then it takes a couple of seconds to refresh all the information. Once you do that, it's very easy. So you click on something, turn on the lights, refresh, and then you get a gradient on the back that basically shows you that the light is at the on state. Then what I created, basically I created 9 of those, but what I created also was the quick links to the things that I use the most, and that's all lights, pool, and Sonos. And then I got my Home Assistant link that opens Home Assistant. I got a refresh if I want to refresh it manually, which I don't, but if you have to do it, and I might tell you later why you might want to do that. And then the configuration for the KW widget if I want to make any changes. So this is completely customizable by you. It's not something that you can download from the Play Store. It's something that you would have to customize on your own, but I'm going to show you how to do all that here. And those links, the nice thing about it is it goes to a Lovelace page. So if I do all lights, or let's say pool, if I want to go to the pool, instead of just opening Home Assistant and just clicking then on the link of the pool or the page of the pool, it automatically goes to my pool, right? So then I can control everything there on my pool. Again, if I want to go to all lights, then it goes to that specific page that is called all lights. And again, if I want to go to Home Assistant, just open Home Assistant. Again, it opened already in all lights because that's where, I had it open. But if not, it would open wherever I left it at that time. So I have those choices. And last but not least is if I want to refresh here, I can refresh it. I'm not going to do anything because everything is on right now. And then if I want to edit the KW widget or KWGT, then I can edit it from here. I'm still using that for development purposes, but I can take it off if I wanted to. So let's dive into how do we do this, and let me show you first the architecture. So let's talk a little bit about the architecture here. First thing, if you have a wall switch or if you have a smart light bulb, which is pretty much what I have, whether you press the switch on and off or whether it gets triggered by a motion sensor, like in my case in the bathroom and in the game room and things like that. And I have 9 devices that I put on my widget. So obviously I have more devices in my house, but only those are the ones that I find myself like 90% of the time that I was using. So within those 2, if they get triggered, basically I have the dashboard, which is going to be the Home Assistant dashboard. I have Tasker, which is the other component that we need here. And basically we're going to have a task for each of my 9 devices. And we're going to have a task also to get the states of the devices, whether they're on or off. So they're going to show on the widget, we're going to show that gradient on the back to make sure that, they show like they're on or off. So what happens if I click on the switch, or if I, with the motion sensor, it automatically turns on, let's say, my bathroom, my switch. So what happens is all of those, I'd send that to an input boolean, meaning all of those 9 devices, if they change the state, doesn't matter whether it's on or off, the input boolean is going to toggle, right? So that input boolean is going to move. I'm going to show you that later on another screen here. So the input boolean basically is going to toggle. That's going to trigger a rest command. And that's what we're going to send to AutoRemote. And AutoRemote is a plugin for Tasker. And in my case, I'm using Lite, which is the free one. One of the caveats with that is that you can only send 2 characters. So I'm sending the character re for refresh, right? R-E. And then once AutoRemote receives that, then it can run a task. And the task is going to be a get state. In this case, I'm doing this by hand, not on the Home Assistant dashboard. So I'm doing it either by hand or by the sensor. So the get state, then it's going to send a variable whether it's off or on. Right? It's going to get a state of my 9 devices. It's going to know which ones are on or off. It's going to send that variable, which there's a plugin for Tasker, and I believe it's free for KWGT, that it will send that to KWGT as a variable. In KWGT, I'm going to look at that with a formula and going to determine whether it's on or off. And if it's on, I'm going to add a gradient on the back of that icon. So then you can see the bathroom in this case as a gradient of on. Okay. Now what happens if I do this from the HAS dashboard, right, for the Home Assistant dashboard? So same things, we have the same components. I turn on my master bathroom from here, and again, the same thing, the same concept, but I'm doing it from Home Assistant. Input Boolean, it triggers a REST command, it goes to AutoRemote, it gets a state, and then it goes to the variable on KWGT, and then it turns the gradient on. And when it's off, it turns the gradient off based on a formula that we're going to take a look at later. And the last thing is if I do it from the widget itself, right? So if I turn anything on and off, what happens? So we still have Tasker involved, and I press my master bathroom. Okay, master bathroom now is going to go into my task for Tasker that is called master bathroom, and that's going to do a call service that's going to turn it on. In this case, actually, it's going to do a Boolean, a toggle. So it's going to do a toggle on the master bathroom, because if it's on, then if I'm clicking on that, I'm going to turn it off. Like in this case, it's on, and I want to turn it off. Okay. If it was off, then it will turn it on, so it's doing the toggle. Now, that is basically going to then, because I changed the state, right? It's the same input Boolean that I was talking about earlier, going from on to off. That's going to trigger the REST command. The REST command is going to go to AutoRemote, the same thing, get the state. That's going to send the variable on and off. And again, I'm going to get whether it's on or off my bathroom. So that's basically the architecture of this. And it might look complicated, but it's not that bad. I'm going to give you everything. It took me like about a week to figure things out, and maybe I'm going to do some other things later on as well. But I wanted to show you here kind of like how it works and all the components that we need. Okay, let's see how this works. The first thing you need to do is to install AutoRemote. And once you install that, you can do the Lite version, which is the free version, or you can use the one that you paid. It doesn't matter. Once you install it, then we need to test it. And basically it gives you this URL here. And now I'm going to copy that URL. So if you click on it and hold your mouse, I think you can get a copy. And then you can go, I'm going to open a new browser here. Go to that. So basically on this website, what you have is a way of sending a message to your phone. So Auto Lite only can handle 2 characters. I'm just going to send 2 characters. I'm going to say me, right? And then you can see here that it created a URL. This is the URL that you're going to use later. And at the end of that URL, you can see here on the bottom, it says message, and it's equal me, M-E capital, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send that to AutoRemote. Now, when you install AutoRemote by default, you're going to have the alerts, you're going to have the toast, they're going to be on automatically. So I'm going to turn mine on because they were off. Now, if I send a message, you're going to see here on the bottom that it says received a message from unknown text me, right? That basically says that I receive a message with a string called me, and then Tasker can identify that, and then me can run something. once I receive that message. If I receive something that is called us, it's not going to do anything, or any other message is only going to refer it to me. So once you have that message and that URL, and you created that test, you copy that URL that you have here, put it in a notepad or somewhere, and then we are going to use that in the next part, that is the configuration of Home Assistant. Now under Home Assistant here, what we're going to do is we're going to go into the Visual Studio Code or whatever editor you use. We're going to go to the configuration YAML, and we're going to edit this configuration YAML. What we're going to add is this res command colon, and then auto remote refresh. That is the name of my service that I have for my res command. So later we're going to be calling this. You can call it whatever you want. So I call it auto remote refresh, because basically this URL is going to send a message with a at the end is going to have a two letter, in this case, string that my phone is going to receive, and that is going to be able to do something. So you copy that URL that we had in the notepad earlier, you copy it here, and then once you do that, you're going to go ahead and restart your Home Assistant. Once you restart your Home Assistant, this will be available as a call service. The next thing that we want to do is create this input boolean that you see here, that I have it already created. Why do we need an input boolean? Basically, if I have any device that changed from any state, let's say from on to off or off to on, I want to basically toggle that. Why do I want to do that? Because if I do a switch physically and I turn it on, I want this boolean to change, and then that's gonna issue a res command that then is going to go to my phone. Then my phone is going to interpret that, and then it's going to do whatever it needs to do. In this case, it's going to get the state of all my devices, so we can refresh everything in my widget. Okay. So when we do that, we go into configuration, we go into helpers, and that's where you create yours. In this case, I have one here, KWGT refresh, which is custom widget. You can call it, again, whatever you want. So when you do that, you create add helper, toggle, give it a name and an icon if you want it. And if you don't want that, then you don't need to do anything, right? You don't need to do an icon, so it's going to give you that icon. Now, by default, the toggle is not going to do anything. So if I toggle something here, it's not going to do anything at all, right? But what we're going to do here is, if something triggers that toggle, and then if that toggles from one side to the other, so on or off, right? Or it goes from off to on, whatever it is, then we're going to issue in this case, an action. Okay. So let's see how we do that. So once we create that, and you don't have to have this here in Lovelace, I like to have it because it's a good representation of what it's doing, and you can do troubleshooting on that. So the next thing that we want to do here is we want to create an automation for that input boolean. So we go to configuration, automation, and I created one here called KWGT input boolean. And when we edit that, it's just the name that I gave it, single. The trigger is going to be the state. And this you have to do in YAML. So I don't think there's any way of doing it here. So you have to go edit in YAML, and then you do platform is a state. So that's what we want to get. Entity ID, and then that was added automatically, so by the GUI, so it doesn't matter, but it should be colon, and then comma separated. You're going to put all your 9 devices. In my case, all my 9 devices that I'm using, and in my widget. Okay, so you get those from the developer tools. You can get the names and copy them here, put them all here, and then you have all of them. Right, so basically, if any of those devices change states, doesn't matter, it could be on or off, basically it's a change of state, then I want to call a service. That input boolean KWGT refresh, I want to call that. So that means that I want to call that, and all I'm going to do, so if you see it here, if I go to my overview, this is off right now, right? If I go to configure, go back to automation, Go back to KWGT input boolean, and I can run the action. Then if you go to overview, you can see that toggle. So it didn't do anything at all except for toggling. Now in this case it did the automation because it did the state change, but this is not doing much right now, right? So it just toggle. There was a change of state, but it doesn't do much. Now once that toggles, you want to do something. And then what is it that you want to do? So now we go back into configuration, automation, and I created an automation that is called REST command. And what is the REST command going to do? Basically, it is going to run if my automation, my input boolean changes, meaning that it toggles from on to off or off to off, on to off. Yep. So any of those toggles that it does, then we will be calling a service, and that is the REST command that we put in the configuration.yaml. And it's going to run the REST command AutoRemote refresh. That's the name that I gave it, and that has that URL that's going to send the message to my phone. So now let's see how that works. If I run this, right, I run those actions, you're going to see here that I received that message. Okay. And that's all it's doing right now. It's basically saying if any of my 9 devices change the state, then I'm going to do this REST command. Okay. And then I'm going to send that information, that string, which in my case is RE for refresh, to my phone. And then my phone is going to handle that. Now we need to move to our phone. And now what we're going to do here is configure first the tasker. And I'm not going to talk about the configuration of tasker. I'm probably assuming that you have it already and you know how to use it. But I'm talking about the configuration of tasker with Home Assistant. And for that, I'm using this here. And I'm going to link this below so you can get this information from the community of Home Assistant. And this is user Bakup, I guess, Boris. And basically what he did is he created 2 tasks that allows you to call a service or call a Home Assistant template. And with that, you can either run a service like light turn on or light toggle, which is what we're going to use, or switch toggle, which is going to use depending on the domain of your device. And the other one is the H8 template. It's basically a formula that we're going to do for templating, I guess is the word, and we're going to extract some information from a device. So you can either extract attributes, or you can extract, in my case, we're going to extract the state. Okay. So what you need to do here, I'm not going to go through this, this is very self-explanatory, but very quickly you create a token. It tells you here how to create a token. You create 2 variables, HA address, that's going to be the address of your Home Assistant. I'm using my local address. I do not want to do this with Nabucasa outside of my house. If I am outside of my house, I use the app. I only want to use it when I'm inside the house. So, and then the HA token, that's the token that you create that basically allows you to connect to Home Assistant from an app, in this case from Tasker. So once you do that, then you're going to import the generic task that he has. He has 2 of those tasks, and he tells you here how to do it. Import those 2 tasks, and that's going to be the calling the service and also the templating, okay, or the template. Now with the call the service, all you got to do, and we're going to show you on mine, but basically you're going to put here the information that you need in order to call a service. Okay, so let's take a look at mine right now here. So I got the get state. Okay, and I call it whatever you want. You can call it whatever you want. I said get states because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get the state of my devices. Now, I'm going to show you only one here, and then what you're going to do is you're going to copy all of these. So you can see how I have one for my patio, I have one for my living room, stairs, and so on. So what you do, and he tells you also that here, he or she, I don't know, they tell you here that basically you do a perform task, right? So you go click on that, look for perform task, and then you're going to choose that task, right? And that task in this case is called HA service, call service, or template. I'm sorry, that's the one we're going to do here, template. Okay, and the template is the one that we're going to extract information about it. Okay, so I'm going to go back. I don't need this. So now let me show you the one that we have. So you choose here HA template, which is that task that you have there already. Priority, you don't need to do anything with that. Parameter 1 is basically where you're going to put your template. And this is going to be the formula to get, in this case, my light patio state. So that's going to be on or off. That's going to be my message. Okay. Out of this, I'm going to get on or off. That's all. Okay. Now, I want to put that on or off in a variable. And this variable must be lowercase. So you do %, PL underscore state. Now that name could be any name that you want. My naming convention is going to be, most likely, it's not always like that, but it's going to be P for the device name, which is in this case is patio, and then L for light underscore state. So if it's, if it's living room, so maybe I call it LL, or maybe I call it in my case LR for living room, right? So if it has two words, it's living room. If it's master bathroom, I call it MB, right, for master bathroom underscore state. Doesn't matter what you call it. Make sure that you know what you call it so you can use it later. You're going to use it to send this information to custom widget. Now, on the bottom, I have a label, and the label is optional. It's not necessary, but it keeps things organized. So the label, this is for my patio light. So that's why I put the label there so I can recognize that later. And then you can see all the labels here: living room, stairs, game room, master, and so on. And you can do other things with labels, but I only use it for keeping things organized. Now, once you do that, you can test it, right? So if I test this, let me go back to my overview here, my all lights. One thing I can do here on the bottom, if I want to verify this, I'm going to say flash, and then I'm going to say here the variable that I want to show. In this case, PL underscore state. And actually, I'm going to say here patio is, and that is basically a debugging thing that you can do. So I'm going to put that here on the bottom. You can see here the flash. So now if I run this, you should see here on the bottom, patio is off. So now if I go here and turn my patio on, it actually will automatically do it because I have already the rest command going there, and it should tell me patio is on. If I do it again, it's going to run this, and it's going to tell me patio is off. Okay, so that's a good way of testing that. Now again, once you're done with this, copy, and then make sure that you have all your 9 devices, and make sure you edit all of them accordingly to get your device. So for example, living room, I want to put here light living room. Okay, and then your value variable, in my case is LR for living room state, and then my label is going to be living room. One thing to mention also here, you can get these devices, obviously, you probably know this, but from developer tools, right? So what is my living room? I guess my living room here is light living room, so I can copy that, paste it here. And if you use what I'm using right now here, which is Visor, it's easier. You can, just go there and then double click on that and then paste it, and you can automatically put it there. Actually, you click once, I think, or double click. Sometimes you just select that one. Yeah, like that right now. And then you can paste it and then move on, right? Now the next step is going to be that variable that you had. In this case, I'm only talking about patio, PL underscore state. Remember, it was percent PL underscore state. Now I want to send that variable to custom widget. So for that, I created here a custom widget send variable. So if you go here, plus sign, you go to plugin, and then you have a plugin for custom widget. And then you set send variable. Okay. Once you do that, you can go here to send variable and do the configuration. The configuration is pretty easy. It is your patio light state with the percent sign. That is the variable from Tasker. Remember that we put there momentarily on and off. And then that's going to send the custom variable that is going to have a different name. And in my case, I want to call it here PL stay underscore K. I added the underscore at the end. You don't have to have a percentage, or actually, I don't think you're supposed to. But I added the underscore K so I can differentiate the custom variable from the tasker variable. And once you do that, then we are going to do something later on in custom widget with that. So the next thing that we need to do is we create the profile. And the profile is basically going to be the conditions to run, in this case, this task, which is called get state. So what are my conditions? So I put here, AutoRemote is one of my conditions. What is AutoRemote? Well, remember that REST command that we put into the YAML configuration file? And then we created that automation that if the input boolean changes, then it's going to run that service of the REST command. And it's going to send a message to my phone with RE, right? And that then I'm going to do something. Well, this is the part that you do something. And then you can go here, and if you click on it, you can add, right? And then you can say, in this case, I cannot do it anymore, but you can say that you want to do that auto remote, right? And then when you add the auto remote event, then you can go here, and then you can do the message filter. And that's where I'm going to put that RE, because that's a message that I'm sending from Home Assistant to my phone. Okay. So once I do that, and sometimes you might want to clear the filter before you do any of this, but that's basically all you got to do. Once you do that, then you are ready to go with the next step, which is going to be here. I only want to do this from 6 until 12:15 a.m. In this case, it's green because I am within those hours right now. And then also I want to do this only from home. Like I said earlier, I don't use my widget outside of home because it's not connected to Nabucasa. It's connected to my IP locally. So I only do it here, right, at home. So those are green right now because I am at home as well. Now let's talk about how to create this. And every time you do something like that, you might want to apply it. But let's talk about how to do that profile again if I do another profile. Let's say I'm going to create a new profile. And then I'm going to do here the event. Plugin. And this is when you do auto remote. And then you can do auto remote, the configuration, and that is the message that you want to put there. So that is how we create that profile. And this is up to you. You need to have that auto remote at least. But all of these other ones, all of these other conditions, it's up to you how you want to use that. Now let's go ahead and talk about the tasks that you're going to use later in custom widget. And this is basically all of the different tasks, the 9 tasks that I have for my 9 devices: master bathroom, kitchen, breakfast, and so on. So we're going to use patio. We're going to use the same example. So in the patio, basically you create a task, okay? And once you create that task, you're going to do the same thing. Go here, perform task, okay? And this is the same thing that we were talking about earlier, perform task, and then you use the call service now. We're not going to use the template because we're going to call the service that's going to turn on or off the light. In this case, it's a toggle. So you choose that service, just search it from here and choose it. And then priority, you don't need to do anything with that. Light toggle. Now, light is going to be my domain. In this case, my patio, it is a light domain. If this was a switch domain, then I would do switch toggle. And how do you know that? Well, go back to developer tools And then let's say, for example, I think my master bathroom, it is a switch. So no, there's the here. Let's do master bedroom actually. That one, you can see that is a switch, right? It is a switch domain. So I cannot use light here, not gonna work. I gotta use switch, and then that name, I would put it right here. Switch master underscore bedroom underscore lights. Okay. So that's what you gotta do here. Now, the syntax is very important. Make sure you have that syntax. I'm gonna put it here on the bottom. So if you want to copy that on the description. And that's all you got to do here. You don't have to do anything else. You go back and then you can perform the task. So let's go to all lights here. And then this is going to be patio. So pay attention to this one. I'm just going to turn it on. And now this is receiving the message because it's doing the refresh of my patio, of the get states. And then I'm going to run it again, and it's going to toggle my patio off. Okay. And I'm going to leave that on. I can turn that off later, the AutoRemote toast. I'm just going to leave that on for now. Now the last part here is going to be custom widgets. Now, I'm not going to do a demo on how to use custom widgets. I'm assuming that you know how to use it, you have some knowledge on that. But I'm going to cover very basic things that I'm doing here so you get an idea. First of all, I created the background here, and basically that's a rectangle that I'm creating with a color. I created two, one smaller than the other one, so I can have a kind of like a nice border that you can barely see it, but it looks nice if you do it that way. Then I created an overlay group. And an overlay group, if you do that, basically it is a container of other objects. So if you create that overlay group, it has that icon. And I'm going to show you the one that we've been talking about, patio, right? So on patio, we have switch, gradient, and text. Those are the three components that I have here. The switch is obviously going to be whatever, when I click on that patio, which is my icon that I have there, person in outdoors, right, is going to do something. So we're going to take a look at that here. Now, if I do that, if I do switch, the set icon set that I'm using, in this case is the material one, is the one that comes with custom widgets. So you can go there. I have a bunch of them. I'm going to probably put the link here. But anyway, I'm using material here, and you can use a lot of them here, whatever you want to use. And then you choose the icon that you want. In this case, mine is called Nature People. The size that you want, it's up to you. Right? Paint, it's going to be the color that you want. In my case, I want a white. And then the other thing that is important here is a touch. So the touch is basically launch a shortcut. So you can do different things in that, right? You can do none. So basically you touch it, does nothing. Or you can launch an app. We're going to do that later on for the Home Assistant. But you want to launch shortcut. So once you do that, you want to do a task shortcut. And you can see it right here. And this might give me an error depending on whether Tasker is open or not. If it's open, it might give me an error here that you can see it. It says the main app, in this case Tasker, is open. So you need to go all the way back and exit the app. I'm going to do that right now. And I'm going to go all the way out, back. And now I can choose my task. In this case, I want patio, which is, I have a bunch of different tasks, but I want patio, which is the one. If I wanted, master bathroom or office, anything like that, then I can have any of those. Okay. In this case, I only want patio. So I choose that. So once I do that, I have the launch shortcut. So when I click on that, basically that's going to toggle my patio on or off. Now let's go back to the other two. Gradient, and this is the important one. This is the gradient that is creating for the kitchen. Now let's use the kitchen since the kitchen is on right now. Okay. Actually, let me use the patio. Let me go ahead and turn it on. So now you can see here the patio is going to be on in a couple of seconds. And now let's go back into the patio. patio, and the gradient. The gradient is that circle in the back, right? So it's going to be a circle, whatever width you want. The paint is going to be based on a formula, right? So if it's off, it's going to be a certain color, which is going to be that FF and then those 6 zeros that we have. I don't know if that is black or not, or maybe close to black, but that is a color that's going to be if is off. If it's on, it's going to be this color, which is going to be kind of like a yellowish, but it's also going to put it on a gradient, and I'm going to show you that in a second. So the formula here is $ if BR, right? And I think BR is for broadcast receiver, right? Tasker PL state underscore K. So that is what I am. Remember, I was sending a custom variable that was called PL state underscore K, and I put the underscore K because I want to differentiate that for custom widget. So Tasker is sending that to custom widget, and if it's on, I want to turn it the color. I want to turn it yellow. If it's off, I want to leave it in that black color that I have, or close to black color that I have. Right, those are the colors that I choose. So right now, because it's on, it is that yellow color. Okay, so I'm going to click on that, and then you can see that that's based on that formula. That's how it's going to change it. Now, what I did here for the gradient, you can do this any way you want. You know, you can do radial gradient. That is going to be my color. That's going to be out. My paint is going to be in that yellow color, and it's going to do that gradient. I'm also doing screen. Doesn't matter how you do this. You can do overlay screen, things like that. So you know that you can blend different layers in different ways. I did screen, so it's a little bit smoother. But it's up to you again. Now, you don't even have to do the gradient. You could have changed, with a formula, you could have changed the color of your icon. So your icon goes from, let's say, sofa white, it goes to sofa yellow or green or whatever color you want. The other thing that is important here is that you do the order right? Because if you do gradient on the top, obviously it's going to be over the icon, and you don't want to do that. You want to do that on the bottom. And the last thing is the label, which I didn't call a label, I call it text, which is what it is. If you do here, you know, plus, and then you do a text, and I didn't change it, but I could have said label. Put your patio lights, whatever label you have for that device, and you choose the font and the size and all that kind of good stuff there. Then what I did here was basically created one, and I was able to copy that to other ones. So I duplicate it, and then maybe change all the other ones the way I want to do it, right? And then you have, you know, your 9 devices. I put dividers, and I created that divider myself. So you can see the divider here. And then on the bottom, I have those 3 main links. And let's talk about those, because it's nothing special about it, but it is nice if you want to open a specific page on your dashboard. And this will open, in this case, Chrome, a web browser. It will open the app. So I have all lights here, and let me make sure that I put that the way we see it. All lights, pool, and Sonos. So all lights link, if I click on that, it's basically that icon, right? And then you choose your icon that you want. It could be a light bulb, whatever you need. And then paint, I painted it a blue color to differentiate a link from my devices. And then the touch. The touch is going to be open link. Now the open link, you have to have Home Assistant, navigate, and the page that you want to navigate to. Lovelace, All Lights, or Pool, or Sonos, right? Got to make sure that you do Home Assistant. Otherwise, if you do HTTPS or HTTP, it's going to open your Home Assistant from a web browser, which probably you do not want to do that on the phone. Okay, so you do 3 links like that, and then you open those for the pages. Now, this one here is a link, and it's called Home Assistant. It's only a text, but that it has a touch, right? And then it's launching the app. And this is a lot easier because you choose the app that you want to run. You know, you can run any other app from here. So that's a lot easier than the other one that you have to put the URL. Now, besides that, then I have this, a refresh. So if I want to refresh this, then I can do that. And basically what I'm doing with that is I'm running a touch, and I'm running a shortcut, a task, and the task that I'm running is the get states, which is the one that's going to refresh all of my devices. And last one but not least, here I have a config for custom widgets. So if I'm ever in my home page and I want to edit something very quick, then I can do it there. So that is, again, the icon that I'm using is a gear. If I touch that, it's going to do a custom action and it's going to do advanced editor. I can save that if I want to, go back here, and that's it. So if I go there, I can go back to the editor very quickly. So if I go here to, let's say, all lights, again, it's going to open my app, not a web browser, and it's going to open all lights. Okay. Now if I go back, say pool, again, it's going to open the page of the pool, which I use a lot. The other one's Sonos, so it's going to open the page for my Sonos environment. Okay. Now, if I click on Home Assistant, it's going to open Home Assistant only, and in this case, it's on the Sonos page, so it's going to open the last page that it had open. So now what I'm going to do on the description, I'm going to put a link probably with all this information on where you can download some of my sample files, and these are the ones that I'm using. So you can basically edit those and then start creating your own widget if you want to. Now it's not going to have everything. It's not a one solution here, but you get the idea where you know how to do it, and at least you have some of that already completed for you, and then you can start creating your own Home Assistant widget. And if you do, please share some of that with the community. So we can see some of the things that you're doing, and maybe some great ideas of what you can do better, what you can do different, and I would be very happy to see some of those things. So maybe I can integrate it into my own. So thank you very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you like to see some of these videos later on, and we'll be creating some other things later for Home Assistant and some other things about home automation. Thank you.